Here is a wrongful death lawsuit that Uber is facing that could have some decent implications for us drivers and our safety. What up, folks? Once again, it is your boy Tim with another ride sharing video. Now, this story is fucked up. Let me make that clear. There's no way to sugarcoat this, but we covered this when this actually happened. This was the shooting death of Christina Spicusa, if I'm getting the term correct. She's a 38-year-old mother of four, or shall we say was a 38-year-old mother of four. And her life was taken by Calvin Crew, a 24-year-old wanted felon. Now, this happened in Pennsylvania on February 12th of last year, 2022. But the details of it are awful. But I want you to hear the lawsuit at the end, because this could actually be beneficial to all of us drivers, whether driving for Uber or Lyft, because if the family of the deceased wins this lawsuit, this shit is going to trickle down to Uber as well, or Lyft as well. Even though Uber is the one facing the lawsuit, Lyft and other ride-sharing companies would have to take note. Now, I want to give you some of the details. Just in its description, on my previous video, I actually have video of her being robbed at gunpoint. It's somewhat disturbing, so I'm not even going to feature the video of her being robbed at gunpoint before her life was taken on this video. But I want you to hear the court details, because it will explain a hell of a lot going into the lawsuit that, if they are victorious, us drivers could benefit from. When the Uber app says drop off to Naya, now this is at the end of the trip. The assailant is in her vehicle. She's taking them from point A to point B, and this is what happens when she arrives at that location. When the Uber app says drop off to Naya, Crew, who turns out to be the killer, Crew allegedly pulls out a gun, grabs Spicusa's shoulder. Spicusa is the victim. Grabs Spicusa's shoulder, pokes her in the back of the head with the barrel. Keep driving, he says. According to the police report, "You've got to be joking," the driver responds, reaching up and touching the weapon. So, and like I stated, this is actually on video. When he pulls out the gun and grabs her on the shoulder, he's sitting behind her, grabs her on the shoulder and puts a gun to her head. And she didn't know what the hell it was, getting knocked upside the head by this hard instrument. She did reach back and touch it, and that's when he verified it's an actual gun. It's caught on video. But continuing on, when she touched the weapon, here's how he responded. "It's a gun," Crew allegedly said. "Come on, I have a family," Spicusa replies. "I've got a family too. Now drive," the suspect says. That's cold as fuck. Before repeating, "complete the trip." So she actually started pleading with him that she has a family, and his response was, "I got a family too." Basically, fuck your family. This is awful. This is awful. Fortunately, they have caught this guy. He is about to begin trial. Probably he'll never get out, but he is about to begin trial. But the details of this are grisly. But it's the lawsuit that I want to talk to you about at the end. Now, as the trip continues on with him basically traumatizing the shit out of this woman, seconds later, Crew allegedly grabs the victim by her ponytail, prompting her to beg for her life. "I'm begging you. I have 4 kids, she says. Please take that off me," talking about the pistol. Crew allegedly grabs her phone and says, "Do what I say and everything will be all right." Now, we know ultimately everything was not going to be all right. What he ended up doing is making her get out of the vehicle and shot her in the head, killing her. She was found in a ditch a couple days later after being reported missing. And he actually snatched the dash cam off of her windshield. So for you folks who, we all carry dash cams around, and I certainly promote every driver to have something recording video in the vehicle as well as outside. But if you can have a dash cam that is hidden, maybe it's better. Fortunately for getting justice, He threw the dash cam off in the grass somewhere, and the authorities were able to retrieve it. And it actually did capture him putting the gun to her head and him pleading. All of the quotes I'm giving you here, I got 4 kids, and he's saying, well, shit, I got a family too, fuck your family. All of that stuff is on video, on her dash cam. So he took the dash cam, but he didn't take it with him. He threw it in a location that fortunately authorities were able to retrieve it. And like I stated, he has been charged with her murder, facing trial coming up soon. Now, he was a wanted felon when he got in her vehicle. And if you notice, while I was reading the quotes where it got to the end of the trip, and the trip says drop off to Naya, clearly this is not to Naya. So that's one major issue that should be presented at that wrongful death, negligent homicide lawsuit against Uber. Clearly, the guy who took her life is not the person that the trip was requested for. How many of us have been complaining about that shit from day one? How can you possibly ensure that the passengers in our vehicles are safe if you're not even trying to ensure it's the right person? What kind of shit is that? So that's something that obviously needs to come up, and I'm almost certain it will in this negligent homicide case, is that you cannot care for drivers' safety if you're not even ensuring that they're picking up the correct individual. We've said it numerous times. You should not be able to request a trip for someone else, period. Because there's no way to have any checks or balances on, suggesting whether that person has been through a background check or they're a safe passenger to pick up at all. You don't know who the hell it is. So that happened in this case. Now, here's the lawsuit. We're going to get to the details of the lawsuit. The suing party on behalf of the deceased is talking about background checks. The fact that Uber has a huge database, they use CheckR to run background checks on us. They don't do shit for the passengers. And there's a hell of a lot of drivers that are victimized. How many videos have you seen featured here? Drivers being carjacked, drivers being kidnapped, drivers being raped, drivers being killed. Happens all the damn time. You don't have to take the word of yours truly or the channel. Just Google Uber driver killed, Uber driver raped, Uber driver carjacked, or replace Uber with Lyft, and you'll get articles to read all damn day. So it's obvious that the ride-sharing companies know this shit is happening. They just don't give a fuck about it. So hopefully a negligent homicide lawsuit like this, where, in my humble opinion, Uber will settle out of court, because this is a no-win situation. It's a wanted felon being able to request a trip, or someone else that is not the wanted felon being able to easily use the app and request a trip with no type of interference from Uber at all. They're going to settle out of court because they don't want this to spread to other passengers and just simply out in the open like a lot of us rideshare content creators are telling you about this shit. Furthermore, permit drivers to cancel suspicious fares. That's in the lawsuit. That's actually, they're suing on the grounds that drivers should be able to cancel suspicious fares without penalty. Now, Uber spokespeople are denying that this is even the case. They're suggesting that drivers are allowed to cancel trips when they're suspicious without any penalty. That is bullshit. Anybody who has driven in ride sharing knows that when you start canceling trips, Uber starts sending you emails and warnings, and this diamond or these different status classes you get, all of that shit, at the very least in the beginning, was contingent on not canceling trips. They do penalize drivers for canceling trips. So once again, making it so that drivers have a hard time making decisions that are what they believe in regards to their own safety, because the companies are threatening you constantly. It's in the lawsuit. Now, another thing that's mentioned in the lawsuit, kind of like, remember the old lawsuit where people laughed about McDonald's being sued because they didn't put hot on the cup of coffee? It sounded frivolous, but the plaintiff did win that lawsuit. You didn't tell people when you hand them coffee, it's actually hot. Sounds ridiculous. You should know coffee is hot. But the plaintiff won. Well, what they're suing Uber on is that, unlike telling you that a cup of coffee is hot, you should let drivers know this shit is dangerous. Now, they are suggesting that in the taxi business, it was common for partitions to be used so that passengers in the back did not have easy access to drivers. They're not suggesting that Uber should provide this stuff, but they are suggesting that Uber should at least recommend it to the drivers, recommend safety procedures, and let them know this is a profession or a side hustle, whatever the hell you want to call it, that inherently has dangers involved in it. We all know Uber don't really talk to you about safety much at all, unless some shit happens and then they try to warn you after the fact. So it is my humble opinion that they will probably receive an out-of-court settlement, because I don't see any significant grounds to fight on. And even if they fight the lawsuit and somehow wins, all of the negative publicity with perhaps other media outlets, this was from Fox News, other media outlets covering this shit, it's not in their best interest. So my belief is they will offer the family, a nice little settlement and try to get this shit quieted as soon as possible, and leave all the rest of us out to continue getting killed, robbed, raped, and carjacked. However, hopefully this opens the door to other victims, their families, or actual living victims to do the same thing. Because we know Uber and Lyft does not give a damn about our safety. At the very least, run a background check. At the very least, ensure that the passengers have to use their real name and a profile picture that details their real identity, their real face. By not even doing that, which is the simplest things you could do, it's pretty clear our safety was never a major concern. So shout out to this family. Godspeed to their lawsuit, and hopefully they end up being victorious. What do you think, though? If you had to list some features that you believe would make us drivers more safe, what do you think should be done? At least from the ride-sharing company perspective. You already know I'm going to tell you to carry a fucking gun. But on your side, what else do you believe that the companies should do for us drivers? I'm going to immediately suggest background checks, using your picture, using your actual government name. I don't want to pick up Slick, Boo Boo, Precious, made up names. Allow the drivers to cancel or avoid whole areas if they're not comfortable with it. And make it so that the passengers know this is an independent contractor picking you up. They don't have to do things if they don't want to. Passengers don't seem to realize that, often get angry, violent, or at the very least make up some bullshit to try to have the companies fire you from the app. But let me know, in your opinion, what safety details that the company could do for us drivers to make this shit at least safer. We know the pay ain't worth a damn. We're not going to go into the pay. But in regards to safety, what else could they do? Let your boy know in the comments. As always, subscribe to the damn channel. See you in the next video.